So we've entered Season 5 of the Big and Tall Show podcast, and we're glad you're here with us. Your hosts, Mark, who is big, and Tom, who is tall, are ready to share some things with you for the week in hopes that you can use the information in your own life to live big and tall in your faith. Here are Tom Runyon and Mark Hastings.
Thank you so much, Jay, and welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Big and Tall Show. We are humbled and so thankful to have you guys listening once again, and here we are, Season 5, Episode 3. Mark, how are you, my friend?
Hey, Tom. I'm doing well. Good to see you again. Good to talk to you, and we are back for another episode talking about, in this season, Between Sundays. And we are between Sundays, Tom. We're right in the middle of it.
We are. And I am, Mark, sometimes you're out of your element, out of the normal. Yeah. And we are on our way. We're actually in a hotel room right now. We are traveling by car all the way up to almost the far northernest point of Michigan. We're going to a place.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
We're going to a place called Mackinac Island. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Mackinac Island.
I've heard of Mackinac. There's something Mackinac. What is that? Are they famous for something?
Well,
I mean,
like a product,
peaches, or like a fruit or something.
Not that I'm aware of, but okay. I will.
Well, you may. Find
I will know
there.
very soon. Yeah. So Mackinac Island is now I'm pulling way back into the archives of history of movies here. Did you ever watch the movie Somewhere in Time with Christopher Reeves? Probably not.
Oh yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
All right. So he was at the Grand Hotel. That was where the whole thing was shot, which is on Mackinac Island. So Mackinac Island, back at the dawn of cars, early 1900s, Mackinac Island decided, hey, these cars are way too dangerous. And so to this day, cars are not allowed on the island. You got some horse-drawn carriages, you got bicycles, you got a lot of walking, and no cars except for like emergency vehicles. So we are, Parker went up there a couple years ago with some of her college friends, and she's dying to go back. So we are driving, and the real point I'm getting here is I wanted to tell you about what we got to do yesterday on the way. Okay. So right now we are smack dab somewhere in the middle of Indiana. So knowing about Indiana, what I know, you've seen the movie Hoosiers, correct? Please say yes, or we can't be friends anymore.
Yes.
Okay. With Gene Hackman, back in the 80s, but it was about high school basketball in Indiana in 1952. What if you're a basketball guy, like that is the movie. And so the gym where they shot that movie, they have preserved it, and it's like a community center, a rec center in this itty bitty little small town in Indiana, and it's open to the public for free. So we went, and I'll send you a video. I shot me a couple shots there at the Hoosier gym, and we got pictures.
Oh, wow.
But more than me, like, that's Paige's favorite movie of all time. So she was brought to tears. She basically cried the whole time. She was just in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had a great time, man. But it's so we're.
Did you take a tape measure and measure the court and
measured to the rim and so our favorite phrase, of course, is when Jimmy Chitwood is asked at the end, about making the game win shot. I'll make it. That's his word. So anyway, good times, good family times is what we're having right here. But so good stuff going on in the Runyon family. What's going on with you before we get into the meat of our episode today?
All right. Well, let me just say this. I look as you were talking. I looked up Mackinac.
Yeah.
And a Mackinac peach is found in northern Michigan.
Well, there you go.
Canada.
How about that? Well, I will eat a Mackinac peach if they're in season, which they should be, right?
And I'm a little bit embarrassed to tell you how I know that or how I knew that. You may share it with you.
Does it have anything to do with peach cobbler?
No.
Oh, okay.
Right. The only way that I knew of a Mackinac peach is from watching Seinfeld.
Oh.
it was in an episode.
How about that?
Kramer loved the Mackinac peaches, and so anyway,
there you go. I don't remember that episode, but I will do my best to try Mackinac peach in the next few days.
I bet they're in season. I would imagine.
I would hope so.
No, Tom, we've had some visitors. My wife's first cousin, actually, they live in the Denver area. And they came and visited over the weekend. They were visiting some of Allison. Their name is Ron and Allison, and some of Allison's family. That actually, it's an interesting story. I won't go into all of it, but she didn't know a whole lot of her family on her dad's side, and through I guess the ancestry type stuff, they found each other, and so they lived close to us in Alabama. So they came down to meet this family member that she had never met before, and they were about an hour and 30 minutes away from our house, and they came and stayed with us. Got here on Saturday and left yesterday afternoon. But they are, they're members of the church. He's an elder out in the Colorado area, and they've got a great church out there, and we want to go visit them. I asked him, I said, hey, let me come he was talking about they do a men's retreat. I said, let me come do the men's retreat, and we'll fly out there, and that way I can count it off on my taxes, Tom. Our trip. So, but anyway, they were real neat people. They stayed with us they have stayed with us in the past several times, and it's always encouraging to talk to them. But that's what we've got going on, and not much else. Everybody's going in different directions. Rachel started her new job with the state of Alabama as a pre-K coach, so she's out and about every day doing trainings and all this, and Hannah and Ben are getting ready they're doing everything for their school, and so, that leaves me. I'm doing the same thing, Tom.
You're a boring guy, Mark. You're a boring guy.
I just, I'm doing the same thing I've done for years.
Well, it's all good. Hey, I'm thrilled about Rachel for one reason, and this is because this is kind of what I've been doing the last, couple of years. After you get out of the routine of the building every single day, it's a whole different life when you got a little freedom. And you can go to the restroom when you want to go to the restroom. You can go to a restaurant and get a bite to eat. But also, the exciting thing I know for her is she's getting to meet lots of new people, and that's always a good thing. Kind of what we're going to be discussing today is, she's getting to let her light shine, and she's going to encounter people that have never heard the gospel. Yeah, and so she's going to be an integral part of those people's lives, and even if just in short amounts of time. So that's good stuff. But Mark, for this week, our Between Sundays, who we are between Sundays, and I think we have hit that point home fairly hard the last couple of weeks. But this week we're going to focus in on us being Christians between Sundays at work. And I think a great beginning focus point is, yes, we have jobs, and no matter what our jobs are, we have opportunities to glorify God in what we're doing in our everyday lives at the workplace. And, I'm going to let you spend a little time here, but I think you and I have very different perspectives on what the old job place looks like. And that's a good thing.
True.
That's a really good thing, I think, because go ahead.
Well, but I guess this may be the toughest place, and I could be wrong, but this may be the hardest place to let our Christian light shine is in our workplace. Now, for some people, it could be easy.
Right.
It all depends really on your coworkers and how close you are to them, how close their values are to your values. But there are some people, Tom, that are listening, I'm sure, and I would imagine that they maybe they enjoy what they do, but sometimes they dread getting up and going to work because of the people that they're around. And, I told my kids when they were, growing up and going to school, I said, you've got to go to school, and I can't change, and you can't change those kids in the school system. I can't change. I wish I could.
Yeah.
But you have to find a way to be around them and yet not give in to peer pressure and thinking like they think and talking like they talk. And that's a difficult thing to do.
Well,
it really is.
It is. And I know within the Lord's church right now, there is a very strong push amongst a lot of families of just completely getting away from public schools. And I'm not saying that's the wrong attitude to have.
Right.
I didn't feel like that was the right thing for us and our family. And here's my take on why is I feel like as our kids are growing up, a big part of our teaching them how to be adult Christians is they're going to have to learn how to interact with the world. And they're going to have to learn how to interact with people who have different beliefs, who have different standards, who have different ways of living life. And being able to let their light shine for those people. And, it's one thing if your child is completely not safe, but it's another thing if they're just in a situation that mimics the world, the diversity of the world and how that can be a very complex place, and teaching our kids how to interact with other people, and how to show others the love of Christ in an environment where maybe that's not a big part of those kids' day.
Yeah. I have tried my very best to shelter my children as much as possible. I want them to be sheltered from the things of the world. However, they live in the world just as you and I live in the world. Right. And I want them to be in my care as they navigate, how can I live as a Christian in this sinful world? I don't want them to already be out of my care, that is in college or in the workplace, and without me there constantly guiding them through, okay, here's how you act, here's what you say, here's when somebody says this, because you're going to have to learn that at some point. Yeah. Now, you can learn it in middle school, you can learn it in high school, or you can wait and learn it, when you're 25 years old. But you're going to have to learn, as you said, to live in the world and live with sinful people. And, I think the sooner the better. And under the care of Christian parents that can guide you through those difficult days. And so, one thing, Tom, when you talk about our workplace, you spent your time at work in the classroom and in the school system. I have spent the majority of my time. Now I worked for 7 years with Alpha Insurance, and I've had a few other jobs before that in the world, in the secular world. So I understand what it means to work with. I had good people to work with, but you have customers, and so I understand what that means. But most of my time has been spent, working in the church, and so it's a little bit different. So talk to us a little bit about how you navigate, being a Christian in like a school system or in a workplace.
Well, Mark, it was honestly a blessing every single day to be in a school building with kids. And, you've heard the phrase, and I always laugh, I almost giggle about it when you go back to Charles Barkley, who says, I don't want to be a role model. And you probably have heard him say that. And the truth of it is, whether you want to be or not, somebody like Charles Barkley is a role model. Yeah. And same thing in a school building. Whether you want to or not, you're going to have people look up to you. You're going to have kids look up to you. You're going to have adults who, as they learn who you are, and they learn, well, this is a guy that has standards, and he's a Christian, and he has ethics, and he has morals that surpass whatever the board policy is of how we're supposed to act in the school building. So as your reputation grows as being a Christian, then to me, it always became easier to be a Christian because it's almost like that's your role when you walk in the building every day is to be a Christian. And so you're not having to fight battles of being a Christian because it's almost expected for you to be a Christian. Now that was my experience. Now that might be totally different from what other people's experiences are in the school building, but for me that was always the case of I am a Christian, and as I know we have some scripture we're going to get to here today on this episode, but that is the expectation, is that we are to be Christians, right. And in fact, let's look at a couple. And I know you've got a couple, but in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and this is one of my favorite passages when it comes to us living in the world. Yeah. Verse 9 of 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, but concerning brotherly love, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves are taught by God to love one another, and indeed you do so toward all the brethren who are in all Macedonia. But we urge you, brethren, that you increase more and more. Now, he kind of shifts from talking about how we're treating our fellow brothers and sisters in Christ. Now in verse 11, that you also aspire to lead a quiet life, to mind your own business, to work with your own hands as we commanded you, that you may work properly toward those who are outside, and that you may lack nothing. There's this expectation that we are to work hard, work with our hands, keep to yourself, don't be a busybody, but work hard and try to live peaceably. We read that in Romans, live peaceably with all other people if it's up to you. And there's always this expectation that we should have for ourselves, that as we are Christians in the workplace, we are going to stir up curiosity of our coworkers of why is he different? Right. Why is he not like the world? And why does he have a joy and a peace about him that surpasses all understanding? And as a coworker looking at that may say, and I want that. Yeah. Like I want that in my life. And how do I get that like Mark has? How do I get that like Tom has?
And they need to see that we act different, and also we react different. Yes. When things happen, when we hear that people are talking about us, or the boss comes in, or whatever it may be, we react different. Tom, I was thinking about 1 Corinthians 5, and actually it just came to my mind. Paul was dealing with a very immoral person in the church at Corinth, and he said this, and I think it's interesting. He said, I wrote you in my letter not to associate with immoral people. And then in verse 10 of chapter 5, he says, I did not at all mean with the immoral people of this world, or with the covetous or swindlers or idolaters, for then you would have to go out of the world. And so Paul was saying, he was talking about really a disfellowship of this one particular erring Christian that was in a sin. He said, you don't need to associate with him so that he'll see the error of his way. But he said, when I wrote you saying that, I didn't mean that you can't associate with immoral people, because you're in the world, and you'd have to go out of the world in order not.
You'd have to go to Mars.
Associate. That's right. That's right. And so, and I'm not saying that all of our coworkers are immoral people, but a lot of the coworkers that Christians deal with they're good folks, I guess. They're good people, but they may not be believers. And if they're believers, they may not be faithful to the church. And so we have to learn how to deal with that. And also, and this goes along, I guess, with what you're saying, I love what Paul said in Colossians 3. He said, whatever you do, do your work heartily as for the Lord rather than for men. We have to understand who we're working for. And we're not necessarily working for our company. We're not necessarily working for our boss or only for them. But we are working for the Lord in every area of life. This includes at our workplace. And he's the one that's watching. He's the one that's looking at us. And ultimately, he's going to be the one that we're going to have to answer to. And we need to be the ones, Tom, and I've said this, actually, I preached this not long ago. We need to be the ones in our workplace that everybody looks to and says, hey, I wonder what he thinks, or I wonder what she thinks about this, because they have integrity, they have wisdom, and they also should know that we are the ones that are going to get things done. We don't pass the buck. We don't try to slack off, but we are true workers, not just for our company or for our boss, but we're doing it for the Lord and for His glory.
That's right. And maybe another aspect of why it's so important for us to work as we're working for the Lord, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is everyone that we are with is watching us. And we've got a member there at Bethel that used to work for the FBI, and he had a coworker who was a fairly outspoken atheist. And this member at Bethel, his mindset every day was to be a godly Christian man in an example to that person. And they had many discussions, and my thoughts and my words always to that gentleman from Bethel, it was always the same of, hey, it may be 20 years from now, but at some point, that atheist is going to have a desire to know the true and living God.
Yeah.
Every person will at some point in their life. I'm a firm believer in that. And he's going to remember the things you said to him. He's going to remember the way you treated him. And as he comes to a desire to know God, he's going to come to you. And he's going to want to know, hey, you remember 20 years ago when we were talking? And you were showing me about God, and you were showing me about Jesus, who died for my sins. Especially as you get closer to death, people start thinking a whole lot more about God. And
that's right.
So, the reason I'm saying all that is, if you are trying to be the encourager at work, you're trying to be the Christian at work, and you don't feel like there's anything going in the right direction, hey, just be patient. We talk all the time about God's timing is a whole lot different than ours. And that applies here as well. Your coworkers, it may be 10 years, it may be 5 years, it may be 20 years from now, but what you're doing means something to them. And like you just read in Colossians chapter 3, it means a whole lot to God.
I think also, Tom, and we're getting close to wrapping up today, but in 1 Peter chapter 3, Peter's dealing with wives, but he says this, in the same way, you wives, be submissive to your own husbands, so that even if any of them are disobedient to the word, they may be won without a word by the behavior of their wives. What a tremendous example for us as co-workers. We can win our co-workers to Christ, and we don't have to carry a Bible with us. We don't have to go around. Now, that's not a wrong thing to do, but we don't have to go around pushing scripture in their face. But we're an epistle, and they are reading us each and every day. And as Peter says to the wife that has a disobedient, unbelieving husband, he can be won without saying a word. How is that? Well, by our actions, by the things that we do. And they will look at us and they will see the glory of God in us. And as you said, at some point, maybe they're struggling in life. That's usually when it happens. They'll turn to us and say, I have seen the way that you have dealt with problems, and I want to be more like you. Yeah. What's your secret? And then that's when you pull God's word out and say, here's my secret,
Yep.
And that's what we need to strive to be doing. This is where, and I think I've said this almost every episode, between Sundays is where the rubber meets the road. This is where we really show, are we true Christians? Or are we just Sunday Christians?
That's right.
And one very difficult place is in the workplace.
Mark, are you a teacher who attends worship on Sundays, or are you a Christian who is a teacher during the week? I think there's a huge difference in those two. And our goal, of course, is to be a Christian all the time, whether it's in our business, our worldly lives, our professional lives, our personal lives, whatever the case may be. We're Christians first, and that needs to be our mindset and our point of emphasis every day we wake up. So
that's right. Tom, y'all have a good rest of your trip. Go try some of those Mackinac peaches.
I'm excited. I'm thrilled now. I got something I didn't know was coming. So I'm gonna give it a shot. So, Mark, I hope you and all of our listeners, of course, have a great week, and that we all are encouraged to stand big and tall in our faith and to let our light shine, especially in the workplace.
That's right.
This has been the Big and Tall Show podcast with your hosts, Mark Hastings and Tom Runyon. We hope you've enjoyed the show today. If you have, please share a link to the show with your friends and family. It's easy to do, and it is appreciated. So remember to stand big and tall in your faith this week and always. Thank you for listening.